Hey, what is happening, everybody? You're watching Bull, Boom, Bear, Bust. Today, let's talk about why I sold all of my gold. And it was just a couple reports ago. I believe it was the episode about where we talked about Carvana, how Carvana was really taking it to the buyers there and making about $6,000 profit on all the used vehicle sales on average. The reason I sold my gold, well, one, I had some gold jewelry that I talked about in that last report that I don't really use it. I don't really wear it. And there was a ring that we found in the ocean. It was a gold ring, so I went ahead and sold it. And I detailed all that in that video, so that's not important. But the important thing is, and some of you are asking in that video and in comments, and I appreciate your questions, why would I sell my gold if I think gold is going higher? Well, I think it is going higher. I mean, of course, we see the price is just under 2,000 right now. But if something else is a better investment, why not trade it in for the better investment? And in my opinion, right here is even a better investment here, folks. This is silver, and this is a 1 ounce coin. Why do I think it's a better investment? Well, silver is more undervalued right now. If you look at the all-time high back in the 1980s, silver was right around $50. I think even a little higher than $50. The gold to silver ratio is way off right now. If you go over and look at that, you'll see that silver is undervalued also using that metric. But there's a few other reasons I want to lay out here, the reason why I sold my gold. Well, first of all, let's talk about the jewelry thing. Jewelry and the things I sold, the ring and some chains. It's nice and it's flashy, but in a situation where you want to have your assets out of the system, this is the closest you can get to real money, in my opinion, and not jewelry. So this is a more tradable item, in my opinion, silver and even gold coins. But when you look at a 1 ounce gold coin worth nearly $2,000, how useful is that going to be when you're bartering or trading with someone? And people say bartering and trading, who would ever do that? Folks, I think it's going to get to the point where we're going to be bartering and trading with one another. I think the whole system is going to go dark. And I know that preppers have been predicting this type of thing for years, in many cases decades. But look where we're at right now. We're on the precipice of World War III. We have all these threats from other nations. We have a lot of different nations going outside of the U.S. dollar. That was unheard of even 5 years ago. That was unheard of, that countries would turn their back on the world reserve currency. And now it's happening. And we can't possibly take action or put sanctions against all these other countries. There's just too many of these other countries when you have the BRICS nations plus dozens of other countries now jumping on board to the anti-dollar bandwagon. So yes, I think there's going to be some very dire consequences for all this. The U.S. can no longer click a mouse, create trillions of dollars, and just use that to buy up all of the assets all over the world, buy up all the oil that we need. There may have been some people that thought we could do that, but look what's happening with the countries trading now outside of the dollar. Yes, we're still buying oil, but how long is it going to be before these countries that produce all the oil, look at Saudi Arabia, how long is it going to be before they say, no thanks, we don't want your fiat dollars, we only want something tangible, we want real money, we want God's money? So ask yourself that question. I think that's going to be right around the corner in the very near future. Now, I want to try to hit on all aspects of this here. Another component of this is I don't trust the banks. I'd rather have my money invested in something physical that I could keep in a safe at my home, fireproof safe, that's outside of the bank. Why? Because I don't trust the banks. Maybe you trust the bank, and maybe you feel like FDIC is going to have your back no matter what. Many people now have lost trust in the smaller banks and the regional banks and have moved their money, either one, out of those banks, or two, into the too big to fail mega banks, because they feel more safe there because all the craziness that went down a few months ago, how Janet Yellen came out there and said, the regional smaller banks, they're not systemically important enough to rescue, paraphrasing, but that's generally what she said. And, that caused a big scare. We saw $1 trillion plus outflows out of those banks into various other resources and locations, including money markets. But a lot of the people went to the too big to fail banks. A lot of people are going to this, though. Let's talk about the outage that I think is going to happen. I think we're going to see an outage, and it could be something breaks in the financial system and all the banks have to shut down. It could be an attack from a hostile nation, maybe Russia, or maybe one of the several other nations now that's on our It's basically we're on their naughty list, so to speak. Um, and if that happens, the entire grid could go down, the entire system could go down. And then the argument I hear is, JJ, you can't eat silver. Silver's not going to do you any good. If you believe that's the case, then just prepare with what you think is going to be needed to survive. If you have enough food and items to survive on, then maybe you won't need to trade anything with anybody. But if you have some cash and you don't feel comfortable holding this paper, this fiat paper, right, then you might want to think about diversifying your preparations, right? So that's what I look at. I look at diversifying as far as investments and also preparations. You want to have a ton of canned goods and consumables and nothing to trade. Well, what if someone has food or items that you need? What are you going to trade for those items? What if you need services completed? What are you going to trade for those items? Maybe you'll have enough canned goods to trade for everything that you need. But this is my choice here. That's why I sold my gold. One, I think gold's overvalued. I think silver's undervalued. So I sold all my gold. But actually, when you talk about barterability, if you have gold in really small denominations, I'm talking grams, um, then I think that's going to be highly tradable also, because you don't have to try to find something to trade for that's worth $2,000, because you're not trading an ounce, you're trading a very small denomination, which is a gram. And according to my friend that's a gold buyer, people are scooping up these grams of gold for these reasons, to have some smaller denominations outside of the system in case they need to barter. Also, just to have them outside of the system because they don't trust the banks and they don't trust what's happening. They don't trust FDIC. They don't trust the Treasury Secretary. They don't trust these people that are telling us that everything is stable and that everything's fine. People are losing their trust in the banking system, in the financial system, for obvious reasons. Now we have to talk about this, and we talked about this many times in 2022 about how central banks were on a record-breaking buying spree for gold and precious metals. 2023, they're not letting up. In fact, they've ramped up their purchases, and we're on pace for another record year of central banks buying gold. Central banks are buying gold at a record pace so far in 2023. Investor alert. Why would the central banks be doing that? So at the same time, we have all these countries going outside of the dollar for trade amongst one another. We have them buying gold and silver in record amounts, right? So 1 + 1, it's very simple, folks. Add it up. Gold, silver, precious metals is going to be the next phase of our monetary. Well, I shouldn't say the next phase. I think it's going to be the phase in the very near future. I think they're going to try to implement this completely digital system. It's going to be a slave currency where they're going to control every aspect of your spending. Therefore, they're going to control every aspect of your life. They're going to attempt to implement that. And that's another risk out there. There's going to be a lot of chaos that evolves from that, right? So risks from many different directions right now. We have a risk of nukes. We have risks of systems getting shut down, getting compromised, blackouts. But the central bankers going to this digital dollar, that's going to be another risk, in my opinion, that could really destabilize things and really change a life very drastically, right? So prepare for all the above, folks. In my opinion, the risk has never been higher. We've never seen such craziness and so many uncertainties and so much risk out there. And but again, if you trust the people in power right now that they're competent and making all the right decisions, and if you believe they have our best interests at heart and everything's going to be fine, then none of this should mean anything to you. You don't need to prepare. Everything's going to be fine. But I'd really advise you to think about stepping up, preparing, and ask yourself why these central banks are hoarding real money. I think you know the answer, folks, and I hope you guys like this video. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate all your support, and I hope everyone has a great, wonderful weekend coming up. We might see you for another report this weekend. Please make sure you come back, hit that notification bell so you don't miss it, and we'll see you then. Bye for now. Keep stacking. Peace.